Hey, everybody. You're about to hear a brief retelling of the movie Brain Freeze. Enjoy watching. A biotech business is contracted to manage the golf course of an exclusive club located in a gated island enclave near Montreal. In order to allow wealthy people to play golf year-round, they sprinkle the area with the newest fertilizer, which melts snow and keeps the grass looking lovely and green throughout the winter. Dan, the security guard, carries a lot of things to his house the next day in town. He's a deranged survivalist who lives for the worst-case scenario and was brainwashed by a radio program that promotes every possible conspiracy. Dan tries without success to start a fire tonight, so he takes a shotgun shell and utilizes its powder, which results in a little explosion that burns one of his eyebrows. In the golf club, Dan's daughter Patricia works as a caddy while Michelle, the CEO of the biotech business, plays golf with an affluent couple to show them how amazing the grass is doing owing to their treatment. But the fertilizer particles are growing beneath the earth, tainting the town's water supply. An actor named Jacques drinks a glass of tap water at a studio before heading out to buy groceries. In order to keep perishables fresh, water is sprayed on the shelves and tap water is used to wash all of the fruit and equipment in the store. Jacques feels a little lightheaded suddenly, but he ignores it for the time being. He finds his stomach rumbling and his teeth going green when he gets home. When he finally locates his wife in the restroom, he is fully transformed into a zombie and bites the unfortunate lady, consuming her flesh and causing her to change as well. Their eyes become green and they stop abruptly as Jacques joins her in the tub. Michelle and the couple head back to the main building at the club and are taken aback to find it deserted. Abruptly, a guy bolts outside while shouting that they had to flee as people are sick, and shortly after, a number of zombie staff members emerge to pursue him. The woman summons the dog over at that same time, but the dog charges at her and bites her neck in a fit of rage. After throwing the dog out right away, Michelle and the husband notice more zombies appearing. Both guys dash into the structure and shut the door to keep the zombies out as the woman freezes as her body changes. They put the dog in another room when it infiltrates and bites the spouse in the leg. The husband changes and begins going after Michelle as the zombies congregate at the door and begin to beat on it. Michelle quickly hides in the kitchen after grabbing a knife. Dan receives a call in town from an elderly woman complaining that her neighbors are fighting and making excessive noise. When Dan gets there and rings the bell, the neighbors show up against the door and it becomes clear that they are zombies. Simultaneously, the elderly woman transforms into a zombie and pursues Dan. Dan promptly hides in his vehicle and attempts to contact for assistance, but no one responds. Dan tries contacting Patricia as more zombies emerge outside his window, but she is too busy trying to get away from the monsters to answer. Concerned, Dan makes the decision to search for his daughter using his automobile equipped with a weapon instead of the corporate vehicle. Adolescent Andre, who lives nearby, comes dangerously close to using tap water to prepare his sister Annie's milk until his mother tells him to use bottled water to protect the infant. Andre sticks to Pepsi and never drinks any form of water. The mother soon begins to feel lightheaded, but Andre attributes it to all of her exercise. Shortly after, the mother transforms into a zombie and pursues Andre throughout the home in an attempt to harm him. Fearful, the child flees outdoors and stumbles, but just as his mother is going to go to him, Dan strikes her with his vehicle. Andre tries to aid her because she's still alive despite her injuries, but Dan stops him. He instructs Andre to hide in his house after explaining that 911 isn't working, and then he walks away. Andre grabs his mother by the legs and pulls her back into the home as more zombies approach because he won't let her go. He rushes to shut all the doors before attempting to phone 911 and hearing that the island is under quarantine. It is discovered that municipal police have erected a gate at the bridge that links the island to the mainland, preventing anybody from entering or leaving. The mother tries to assault Annie at that point, so Andre takes her out and locks her in the restroom. The mother gets in the tub after seeing that the shower head is leaking water. The zombies continue to assemble at the door while Annie continues to wail in the meantime. Until the zombies depart and the weeping stops, Andre covers her with cushions, a blanket, and even a large plush toy. A few minutes later, as Andre's cat uses the pet door to enter the home again, a zombie appears out of nowhere and nearly grabs Andre. The zombie stops moving as the child exits the room, but it starts up again when Andre returns carrying a golf club. But rather than attacking, he chooses to hide. Patricia hides in the garage of the golf course until she eventually phones her father for assistance. Dan soon finds himself in the middle of a group of zombies outdoors, but he doesn't let that stop him from fighting them. He swiftly uses a knife to kill a couple and knocks down others before running inside. The military arrives in jets to bomb the island's key regions, cutting out the electricity, so the police pull away from the bridge gate at that point. The next morning, Annie's nanny tries to use the bridge to go to work, but it's been wrecked too. Andre, meantime, records the zombies through the glass, pausing only to see the Minister of Public Security's news conference. The guy assures that everything is under control and adds that they had to demolish the bridge in order to isolate the issue. At that time, Andre's phone runs out of battery. When Andre goes to check on his mother later, he finds that she has some green gunk on her body. When Annie crawls in, the mother attempts to attack her, To convince her to follow him instead, Andre creates noise and rattles her favorite veggies. When they finally get in the living room, the mother unintentionally knocks against the TV stand, which sends the television tumbling to her death. Upon returning the lifeless body to the restroom, devastated, Andre discovers that grass has sprung on her wounds. Then he takes her phone, which is regrettably broken. Subsequently, Andre climbs a ladder to reach the front door and peers outside, verifying that the zombies are only standing in the light. He opens the door, lets the zombies see the cat, and lets them race after it because he is sick of being cooped up. He gets the golf club and places Annie in a baby carrier. Once the entry has been cleared, the zombies pursue Andre as he sprints as quickly as he can toward the grocery shop. The doors are locked, and just as he is about to be encircled by the creatures, a door opens, and Dan pulls him inside. Dan hasn't had a plan, but he's been here since yesterday and has set up a little camping area. They will die of hypothermia from swimming in the river since all of the boats have been taken away. Annie wanders around and finds a zombie behind locked doors as Andre searches for baby formula. Patricia is the one who's been contaminated as well. Dan is keeping her around in the hopes that she may eventually be cured by someone. While at the golf club, Michel has reinforced all of the doors and is speaking with his colleagues via radio. They have informed him that specialists are en route and that he needs to adhere to protocol as well. He kicks the undead dog away because it continues barking at him. He killed his companion in the kitchen, it is also discovered. Dan is still unable to light a fire back at the store, so Andre resorts to using a blowtorch. They listen to Dan's favorite radio program, which accuses eco-terrorists of being responsible for the zombie onslaught, while they eat. The Minister of Security is interviewed by the presenter, but the man is your standard politician, dodging questions or responding with evasive, meaningless statements. The host is suspicious, believing that the government would sacrifice its people in order to clean up the region. Dan makes the decision to phone the radio station and inform them that there are survivors and request assistance. But before adopting a side, the host notes that the rest of the globe doesn't want the illness and he wants to know the whole story. Annoyed, Dan ends the call. After talking over the choices, Dan and Andre decide to investigate the reason of this in order to develop a vaccine. After some consideration, Dan concludes that since it's the only thing that unites everyone, it must be in the water. As a result of his anxiety, he avoids drinking it straight from the faucet. He even believes that terrorists may have contaminated the water, which Andre finds absurd. Shortly after, Patricia, whose head has been placed in a cage to prevent biting, is taken by the three as they exit the store. They discover a group of green goopy zombies lounging in the sun, and a small girl strikes Dan the moment she spots him. He pulls her away fast, but he doesn't have the courage to murder her and carries on. Before the zombies catch up with them, the party escapes safely in Dan's vehicle. In the meantime, two armed twins dispatched by the biotech business show up at the golf club and effortlessly dispatch every zombie who attempts to stand in their way. All of the contracts and paperwork pertaining to his agreement with the club are being burned inside by Michel, but he retains a tiny sample of the fertilizer. Soon after, the twins locate him, and Michel steals one of their suitcases, which has spheres containing the medication that would eradicate the illness in 24 hours, from them. The twins catch him as he snatches a sphere, make him consume the fertilizer sample, and then knock him unconscious. The sphere hits the ground as they pull his corpse away. Returning to the survivors, they choose to leave Annie in the car upon reaching the water plant because they believe that her sobbing would draw zombies. Dan and Andre carry Patricia inside the building with them since they can't leave her there, even if there's a grassy zombie lurking in the water. Once Patricia realizes this, the males are forced to follow her as she starts to rush after him. She swiftly locates the pool and dives in, prompting Dan to follow suit in order to save her. The second zombie reappears out of nowhere and is about to attack, but Dan locates Patricia and holds her in front of him, causing the other zombie to retreat. As Andre gets closer and sees the zombies won't fight, the monster hears him and comes after him right away. Dan cuts Patricia's arm off in an attempt to get her out of the water while Andre heads outside to join the pursuing zombies. When Andre finally makes it to the car, he hides inside, and shortly after, Dan emerges as well, using Patricia as a shield to keep the zombies at away. As they get into the car with the siblings, Andre notices Patricia also has a phone due to a noise he hears. When he grabs it and unlocks it with her amputated arm, he notices that grass is sprouting on the wound. Dan finds it strange that there is grass in the winter until he recalls the most recent invention made by golfers, not terrorists. The twins start smashing the spheres on the grass at the golf course in an attempt to remove all the evidence. The odd smoke on the grass is soon noticed by Dan's group, so Andre makes sure to document everything. Dan searches for an alternate entrance as they dash to the front door and discover it shut. He scales the roof to enter the building and let the others in. He then locks Patricia in the storage room and uses chairs to create a playpen for Annie. When Dan and Andre start looking around the structure, they discover the dog, which is coated in grass and still alive. Andre runs to comfort Annie as she starts to weep and Dan starts to feel lightheaded. However, he realizes she's escaped the makeshift playpen. As Andre searches for his sister, Dan follows a dimly lit hallway and finds many explosives that are about to detonate the structure. Even though he starts to feel worse, he doesn't give up and keeps searching until he locates the chamber where the timer that links to all of the bombs is located. Dan uses Patricia's arm to stop the timer just before his eyes turn green because he falls and is too weak to get up. The twins walk back inside to look into it after noticing nothing is erupting outside. Before they go, they find Annie in the kitchen and feed her the fertilizer. Andre keeps searching and eventually finds his sister, whom he takes away after seeing a zombie like Michelle in a closed chamber. The twins obstruct his path in another room, covering Annie's mouth and grabbing Andre so they can give him fertilizer. But Annie turns into a zombie as well and bites off the twin's finger before the sample drops. Dan nearly attacks the other twin, but she defends herself, and as Andre moves her in his direction, Dan bites her. Andre retreats, stepping on the cure sphere, which allows the smoke to fill the room and begin operating within Dan and Danny. Dan then pursues Andre, and the two of them make it to the kitchen. Just as Dan is ready to bite Andre, he notices Annie's presence and retreats. Before one of the twins can complete their transformation, the other pulls out a gun and they shoot each other simultaneously. Then, Andre uses Patricia's phone to ring by removing Dan's outdated phone from his jacket. When he does, he begs for assistance and creates a video in which he explains everything. While the video reaches the press, Andre brings Dan to the storage room so he may be with his daughter. The government will soon dispatch army helicopters to do thorough cleaning. Andre walks outside to call for assistance while carrying Patricia's arm so that vaccinations may be administered as a group of troops use flamethrowers to burn down any zombies in their way. But before the second survivor could reach the soldiers, she was shot and killed. Andre makes the decision to hide while Annie recovers from the treatment, and it becomes clear that the troops aren't there to rescue lives. At the golf club, Dan also recovers, but as the troops open the door, they promptly burn him and Patricia down. The Minister of Public Security declares that the illness has been completely eradicated and contained, but he is later seen sipping from a cup with the biotech company's emblem, suggesting that he was involved in the plot from the beginning. Andre continues to explore, discovering additional bodies of shot-down survivors. Abruptly, he spots something in the river, a volunteer boat headed by Annie's nanny, who comes to his aid without hesitation. Andre throws the arm into the ocean as they leave the island, realizing it is now worthless, and a fish immediately turns into a zombie as it bites it.